Hello, everyone. Thank you again for being with us here in the room and on Zoom. Tonight, our panels, sorry, there's good feedback here. He is Senior Advisor to FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell and has stepped in as our Acting Director. We are very happy to have him with us here in New Mexico. Ben and our Deputy Director, Jennifer Carvajal, will be sharing the latest updates from the Claims Office. Then we will toss it to Advocate Paula Gutierrez, who will discuss some upcoming events to further assist you in your post-fire recovery. After which we will hear from DHSEM Deputy Cabinet Secretary Ali Rye. And we also want to welcome Adriel Taslim from the National Flood Insurance Program, who will provide guidance on flood insurance. And we also have Lou Macias from our state office of the Superintendent of Insurance. We also have advocates, navigators, and disaster case managers on hand to meet with you one-on-one. Navigators are in the next room if you'd like to ask specific questions about your claim. Tonight we are holding questions until the end of the program. And if you'd like to ask a question, please raise your hand. And Joyce and Alex will pass around a notepad for you to write down your name. And when the time comes, we will call on you to ask your question. We also ask that you remain seated until the question portion of the program. And with that, please welcome Ben and Jen.
Ali, welcome everyone.
All right. Good evening, everyone. You're fine. You're good, Chris.
Sorry about that.
No, you're totally fine. So I just want to say a couple of words. My name is Ali Rye. I'm the Deputy Cabinet Secretary for New Mexico's Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. Super long title, just to pretty much tell you that I work on behalf of the governor. And one of the reasons that I am here is to hear you guys and to let you guys know that we are listening. We are here to help support, and we want to make sure that you guys get all the resources that you need. We are very committed to this recovery, not only myself and my office, but also the governor. In fact, I talked to whether it's someone from her staff or someone from her federal liaison staff at least once a day, sometimes even more than that. And our commitment is to keep fighting for you guys and for the money to be placed onto the ground and to in your hands, so that way you guys can start your recovery process. Kristen did a fantastic job of introducing some of our folks in the room, but I also want to let you know there's a couple of folks online listening who are state partners. So we'll start with Lou Macias. She is with the Office of Superintendent of Insurance. We also have Martin Romero and Jesus Carrazo. They're with Regulations and Licensing Department. And then Sunny Finley. They are with the New Mexico Department of Agriculture and Cooperative Extension Services. I just want to let you guys know that we have been working for months with the Claims Office to make sure that we are working on reducing the burden of documentation on you guys. It has been a huge driving factor for us because we know how much of a burden that is on you. We're very excited about the program and how many changes that Ben has done to help move this program along. I don't want to steal all of his thunder for tonight because I know that it's part of his slides, but one of the ways that Ben has been working with us, especially for us to in response to this, is with the smoke damage. And like I said, Ben will definitely talk a little bit more about this tonight, but for us, it's one of the fantastic ways that Ben is working to make sure that we work hand in hand to reduce the documentation on you and use a couple of other tools that we have in our pocket so that way it's easier. The next thing we did tonight to hear about, we heard your feedback. We heard you in the last town hall. about making this kind of more focused on answering questions for you guys. We want to hear from the community, so tonight is going to be a little bit different than some of the other town halls that you've experienced. You're going to get the real answers right on time from the programs who are actually administering some of the funds that you are dealing with. So you have a couple of us sitting up here tonight, but then you have even more folks who are down in the atrium. We are here because we want you to be able to get an immediate answer from the experts. So with that, I will turn it over to Ben so he can talk a little bit more about this.
Thanks, Allie. Thanks, Allie. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. So, as Chris and Allie mentioned, my name is Ben Krakow. I'm Senior Advisor to the FEMA Administrator and out of our Washington, D.C. office. I've had the honor of being in New Mexico for since early January, so I'm spending the vast majority of my time here while we recruit for that Chief Operating Officer, Director of Operations that you've heard about. That recruitment is well underway. We're going through the federal hiring process. It is a top priority for the administrator. It's a top priority for our regional administrator out of Denton, Texas, to get that position filled and really unify our office here into that joint recovery office and make sure we are with New Mexico every step of the way. Today, tomorrow, and the years to come as we make our way through recovery. You see them in the back, in the other room, working hard, our claims reviewers, our navigators, Deputy Director Carvajal, the advocate, Paula Gutierrez. Everyone is working hard on your recovery. That said, we know that there are parts of the program where we have fallen short, and we have been committed for a long time now of making those corrections, trying to accelerate our payments, trying to improve our processes to make it as efficient and effective as possible with our number one goal of maximizing compensation to the fullest extent of the law. So I'm going to talk about some of those improvements that we've made. But as Allie mentioned, first, let's go to the next slide. You're going to hear from several experts tonight. Flood insurance, water well testing, agricultural resources. Every recovery is unique. Every individual has a unique story. Behind the numbers are human beings that we are doing our very, very best to take care of. That is why, in addition to the panel up here today, we have navigators, we have disaster case managers, we have staff from Paula's team and our advocate's office. So whether it's during the program or after the program, you can meet with them, they can review your case, they can accept documentation on the spot. And we've been trying to adjust our model to move even more quickly, and that's what's happening in the room. We're wrapping up day 3 of a 3-day series of workshops where we're trying to get people compensated in real time. So what has been taking weeks and months, sometimes longer, which is not our goal, we're trying to do it even more quickly, and that is something that is going throughout our entire program. Next slide. So, like I said, I do want to acknowledge that there have been shortcomings. We've heard your concerns. We've been making lots of improvements. That has included reorganizing how our staff is situated. It includes adding additional personnel where we saw backlogs and delays. And also means looking internally at our data to figure out where those backlogs are, what is coming at us down the pipe, and trying to resolve them before they become a major problem. So I want to run through, I really don't want to spend all night going through data. We can talk about data for days. Sometimes Allie and I do talk about data for days. But I want to just give you some high level numbers, and I'm happy to give more detail one-on-one or during the question and answer section. As of today, so this data is as of 4 o'clock this morning, we have received $822 million worth of claims. So that is people who have come to the office and submitted the proof of loss. And so this is what I think the claims office should compensate me. We have paid $432.6 million worth of those claims, so 53%. This number fluctuates every day depending on the size of the payment and the number of payments, but that is what we have paid thus far. Next slide. I also know that there's been a concern in the community that we're structured like an insurance company, and we're trying to pay as little as possible, and that is not true. We want to compensate to the maximum extent under the law. So maximizing compensation means giving you every dollar that you were owed under the act. So what does that mean by the data? In 78% of cases, we have paid the claimant what they've asked for or more. Let me repeat that one more time. In 78% of cases, more than 3/4 of the time, we have compensated the claimant what they've come into the office for or more. And that's because sometimes when we do evaluation, when we look at our standard rate calculators, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, it comes out higher than what you claimed, and we give you that higher number. Next slide. LODs, letters of determination. So these could be full letters of determination, your final letter of determination, or your partial letter of determination. And we've been really accelerating our process to get out when we have what we call a severable loss. When there's something that we can pay today, we want to pay it today. So we're not waiting till all the documentation. We're not waiting. We know that in some cases we're trying to reduce it. And in some cases we've had to do site inspections. In some cases we have to review a subject matter expert report. What we're trying to do is if there's other losses that we can compensate today, we want to send out a partial letter of determination. This goes back to last year. As you can see, December was our high watermark for 2023. January, we exceeded it. February exceeded it. As of 4 o'clock this morning, 237 letters of determination have been distributed in March. I push my team every day to accelerate these numbers. So what this is a maturing program. It is not perfect. It is not happening fast enough. For any of you, it's not happening fast enough for me, but we are trying to move as quickly as we can to get more compensation out. Next slide. All right, let's talk about smoke and ash damage. So again, as we look to streamline our processes, and we know that the word has gotten out about our smoke and ash damage because we have seen for the last 3 weeks, over 1,000 people a week come into our Las Vegas office, just up the road from here, filing smoke claims. We've received thousands of these in a very short period of time. So in order to be compensated for smoke and ash damage, we need very little documentation. We need your proof of identity, which is what we need for any claim that we're processing. Proof of ownership or occupancy. Why ownership and occupancy? Because renters are eligible for compensation just as homeowners are. Both groups of individuals are eligible for compensation. Insurance, if an insurance company has already compensated you for smoke loss, we might be able to make up the difference. We will certainly be able to cover your deductible, but we might be able to give you more than that. But we are not permitted under the law to duplicate benefits, which is why we need to see if you had an insurance payout. If you had expenses out of pocket, debris removal, you already paid someone to come and professionally clean your home, those expenses are compensable under the Act. But again, not required. Documentation is preferred but not required. Cleaning expenses, including contractors or do-it-yourself cleaning. And then we need the smoke and ash cleaning worksheet, which we have copies of here at the town hall today. You can fill it out today along with the notice of loss. We can receive it today. If you have other documentation with you, we're happy to receive that today. You're probably hearing in the community through the grapevine that we're compensating a pretty high dollar value for, and we're going to walk through an example in a moment, for smoke and ash damage. That's because we know it's not just about wiping down the walls or vacuuming with your home vacuum. When we came up with the calculation for how we were going to compensate on a per square foot basis for smoke and ash damage, that includes insulation replacement. It includes carpet replacement. It includes going through your air ducts with a HEPA vacuum. Think about a private company that would come in after a fire and do that professional cleaning. That's what's baked in to the per square footage rate. Let's go to the next slide.
And Ben, while they're flipping to the next slide, I think it's good for someone to know that for the smoke and ash damage in the example that you're about to go over, if someone just wanted to do a partial payment because they're not ready for the rest of the claim, they could come in just for this.
Absolutely, this is a great example. And what we're seeing is some people who are coming in and they're saying, my only losses were smoke and ash damage and evacuation costs, and I have nothing else. We can process that and go right to a final letter of determination. We have other people who are coming into the office saying, I have smoke and ash damage, I have evacuation costs, I also have a business loss. I also lost a vehicle. In those cases, we can do what we call a partial letter of determination and a severable payment and pay more quickly for that while we review the rest of your loan. It's a great point. So let's walk through an example. Again, hypothetical, everyone's experience is going to be a little bit different based on the size of your home and where you were in relation to the burn scar. But as an example, you had a 1,000 square foot home in Rosciata, New Mexico, and you were within 15 miles of the burn scar. Our calculator looks at three things: the structure, the contents, and outbuildings. There's a different per square footage rate for each of those. Adds up to about $35.55. So in this case, this individual does not have an outbuilding. They are a homeowner, so they get both the structure and the contents, and they get compensated at $35.55 a square foot for $35,550 by completing the smoke and ash form. If you were a renter, you would come in for contents. If you had outbuildings in your property, you would come in for, and you were an owner, you come in for the structure, the contents, and the outbuilding. And all of those are compensated at different rates. Our folks who are here tonight can bring up our standard rate calculator and do an approximation based on your square footage. Earlier in the program, and we know that this led to some of our delays, we were also going and doing site inspections. We were walking around your home and we were taking measurements. We have stopped that. What we're doing now is we're taking your address. We are using a GIS program similar to Google Earth, looking at the perimeter of your house. We're asking you on that smoke and ash form how many stories your house is, and we're calculating what your square footage is. It's an approximation. In most cases, because of roof slope, it's actually a higher approximation than if we went and measured every room. But that's okay, because it saves a lot of time, it saves a lot of burden for you. You don't have to wait for an inspector to come out, and that's how we're doing our calculations. All right, let's go to the next slide. All right, this is also relatively new, but we know that a lot of people had to evacuate during this tragic fire. Some people went to hotels. Hotel costs are reimbursable. Some people rented other properties. Those costs are reimbursable. The mileage to get there is reimbursable under the program. But we also know that friends, family, neighbors took people in. And when they did that out of goodness of the heart. But it also cost them some money. Evacuee hosts can come into the claims office for compensation. There's two options for this. So option one, again, a standard rate calculator. All of our standard rate calculators are posted online. You can scan the QR code, or you go to our website, and we have copies of them here tonight. So for a standard rate calculator, we only need a few pieces of information. We need to know who the evacuee host took in, what are their ages and genders, and I'll get into why we need that information. And we need to know how long they stayed. And what we do is we combine data from two different sources. One is a U.S. Department of Energy rate calculator for the incremental cost, increasing costs for energy. What did it cost because you had 4 extra people living in your house for 2 weeks? And then based on the age and gender, we use a USDA, United States Department of Agriculture calculator for food. What would the average 38-year-old male consume over a 2-week period? And we plug that in, and that's how we generate compensation. So that's option one. That's the option with little documentation. Option two, if you went out and you bought bedding, if you bought air mattresses, if the person that was being hosted in your home had a special diet and you needed to buy things like gluten-free food. We know those things cost more. In that case, we do need documentation. Doesn't need to be a lot of documentation. We know 2 years ago it's hard to get a receipt, but if you bought those extra things with a credit card, a copy of your credit card statement is fine. You can highlight it out. We don't need everything else. We just need that one line. We block everything else out. And then we can pay you the higher rate. So again, we have the kind of the easy option, very limited documentation, filling out a simple form. And then if that is less than you would get through your documentation, we will pay you the higher amount. That's how we're doing this. Let's go to the next slide. This was a tragedy, and we know that people are still suffering. We know that people have medical ailments and mental health concerns that they're receiving treatment for. Medical issues, mental health issues that are tied to the fire are compensable under our program, so we can pay for that. So these are considered economic damages, right? So this is different than pain and suffering. This is different than emotional distress. These are individuals who are receiving different types of medical or mental health treatment. So we need the following. Let me say at the top, we don't need your medical records. We don't need your ICD-9 codes. We don't need your, we don't need a copy of your medical chart. It's none of our business. That is between you and your provider. A note from your provider that you're receiving treatment as a result of something connected to the fire. Documentation showing how long your provider expects that you will need that treatment, what it costs, and what your insurance is covering. Because again, we have to deduct duplication of benefits. And that's it. It does not have to be formal. It does not have to be a 5-page letter. Quite honestly, your provider can write it on their prescription pad, and that can come in, and we can pay for treatment that you've received since the fire, and we can, based on how long that treatment is projected to last, we can compensate you for the future, so that you're able to get the treatment that you need. Let's go to the next slide. All right, I'll start by saying that you have the absolute right to an attorney for every part of the claims office process. And we talk to attorneys all the time who are processing claims on behalf of their clients. We designed the process so that you don't need an attorney. That's why we hired our wonderful navigators. That's why we have Paul and our wonderful team of advocates to help people through the process. But if you have an attorney, that's absolutely your choice. It does not restrict you from getting information about your case. You have an absolute right to an attorney. You have an absolute right to information about your individual claim. So we have this very simple notice of intent to proceed without counsel form. So if you're represented by an attorney and you want information about your claim, you fill this out. We encourage you to tell your attorney that you're talking to us, but it's not required. That's a decision between you and your counsel. I want to also make clear that signing this form does not forfeit your ability to keep working with the attorney. It also does not sever your relationship, does not end your relationship with the attorney. All it does is allow us to discuss your case with you without your attorney present. If you want to talk to us with your attorney present, we do that all the time as well, and we're happy to. So you can get on the phone. We're happy to do Zoom calls. If you and your attorney want to come to one of our offices and sit down with our navigators, perfectly fine. All of the above is an option, but if you want information about your claim, we have heard in the community that some people are, well, I have an attorney, I can't go to the office. You absolutely can. We're happy to talk to you and give you all the information about your claim that you want. Let's go to the next slide. All right. So appeals. So we know that, even though we're trying to maximize compensation, even though we're trying to give people every last penny that they're owed under this program, we're not always going to agree on valuation. It does not stop with that final letter of determination. You are able to appeal your case, and then we have an appeals process that has been set up. As I sit here today, we have received one request for an appeal. So there's not high volume right now, but we know that number is going to grow. And then we will continue to look at your claim. You will present additional information that we can consider, including information from experts, including additional documentation that you may have missed or not submitted during the first part of the claim, and you can handle it through the appeals process. A couple of quick notes. You do need to appeal within 120 days of receiving that letter of determination. So that's 4 months. The other thing, which is a change from the beginning part of the program, but again, like I said at the beginning, and you'll hear me say probably another 100 times tonight, we want to give people compensation as quickly as possible to the maximum extent as possible, which is why when you get that final letter of determination from us, let's say you had 10 lost line items. If you agree with us on 5 of them, and you disagree with us on 5 of them, we will pay you for the 5 where we agree, and you can appeal the 5 where we disagree. So we're not gonna hold the entire payment until we get to the end. You can appeal at the line item level. Okay. How do you appeal? You can call the helpline. You can email us. You can come in person and let us know if you want to appeal, or you can send a letter to us by mail. There's more information about the appeals process in the program policy guide that's posted online, and we are developing an appeal form that you can fill out. So you don't need to wait for the appeal form. You can appeal today, but we are trying to make the process even simpler by creating a standard form that you can fill out and submit to us. Forms in the federal government take time because there's lots of people, even outside of FEMA, that need to review them and approve them before we can post them. But that process is well underway. So we'll have the form soon, but does not stop you from filing an appeal today. Next slide. I think many of you are aware of this. We have copies of every one of our documentation checklists here tonight. But, you know, as we've matured the program, we really want to make it easy for you to come in on your first visit to our claims office with all the documentation that you need for specific sets of claims. So these are some of the documentation checklists that we have, and each one walks you through what we would need to substantiate or pay your claim when you come into the office. And again, we're trying to make it as simple as possible. So again, we have a QR code. You can email us, or you can take a copy with you today. And any of our navigators, any of our advocates would be really happy to walk you through all these checklists and answer any specific questions that you have. Let's go to the next slide. So every case is different, every situation is unique. So at broad strokes, these are some of the challenges that we are seeing, some of the common challenges that we're seeing in files that are coming into our office where we need to go back and ask for additional documentation. Identification. So this could be a driver's license. No? Start with. It's a good sign I haven't talked too much. Documentation. So your identification, driver's license, passport, acceptable. Ownership records. So this could be warranty deed. This could be your tax documents. This could be something from the county assessor's office. Tax returns for business losses. We do need to be able to show the business losses. Next slide. All right. I'm getting to the end of my section, I promise. We know our wonderful staff in Mora, and I know Lorenzo is here somewhere, our site lead. There's Lorenzo in the back. Since the office opened, they've been working in a very, very small space. If it was 200 square feet, it was a lot. They've done great work there, but we know we needed to give Lorenzo a bigger house, and so we have done that. So right now, behind the Mora County Courthouse, you'll see these modular units that we brought in. Parking, ADA accessible. The staff has moved in with temporary furniture right now. We are officially opening this on March 25th, but you can go to this office today. And with expanded space also means expanded number of people, so we're going to be able to handle more people coming in to process claims. We'll be embedding claims reviewers up there, just like we've done in the Las Vegas and Santa Fe offices. And we also are able to accept claims on the spot through our increased administrative support. So more people going up to Mora in an expanded facility, which we're really, really excited about. So we hope you can visit us. Next slide. All right, Paula.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Paula Gutierrez, and I'm the advocate for the Hermit Canyon Claims Office. We can go to the next slide. The role of the advocate is really to ensure that we provide claimants an opportunity to have a venue to be able to address any issues and concerns. We also provide a level of education and training and outreach. One of the other components of the advocate's office is partnerships with stakeholders as well. And also with the inquiries that we receive, calls of challenges and issues that come to the advocate's office, one of the things that we end up doing is looking at trends that exist. So we're not just addressing the issues one-off, but we're also looking at the data and being able to identify those trends so that we can address the issue at its source. One of the different components that we've been able to move forward, especially as it relates to our community outreach initiatives, is really to make sure that we utilize and maximize the data to be able to make sure that we meet the claimants where they are. Can go to the next slide. In our 2024 community engagement strategy, our focus, as I stated, is really meeting claimants where you are. We have Advocate Connects that we hold twice a week. We have every Tuesdays in Mora from 11 to 1, and every Thursdays here in Las Vegas from 11 to 1. And at those Advocate Connects, we invite people to come in if they have not submitted a notice of loss and they have questions, or they're a little weary of and not ready to submit a notice of loss. They can come in and be able to get information, we can provide assistance in helping them fill out notice of losses. And if there's anyone that has any issues or concerns, they can also come and be able to be referred to one of the claims advocates where they'll be able to get that one-on-one assistance in helping address their issues. We have a targeted New Mexico Community Outreach Initiative that we ended up holding, where we partnered with the disaster 4652 individual assistance that helped individuals throughout the first year impacted and that participated with receiving FEMA funding. We ended up identifying that a lot of those individual assistance claimants did come into the claims office and submit a notice of loss for compensation. So what we ended up doing is utilizing that data to do a crosswalk to be able to see how many of those individuals that we did not reach, and identified a text campaign, a call out campaign, and also some resource and recovery fairs so that we can be able to let people know. Because one of the things that we identified is that people thought that since they received individual assistance, they weren't entitled for compensation in the claims office. So we wanted to be able to reach out to those individuals and let them know that they have the opportunity to come in and seek compensation throughout the claims office. So we do hold some advocate resource fairs and partnerships with our volunteer fire departments in the different areas so that we can also bring some of those resources to the communities. We bring our advocate team and also some navigators, claims reviewers, disaster case managers to be able to help answer questions, provide assistance in, if you want a status check on your claims, we can provide that there. If you have issues and concerns, we can, help and provide that needed assistance at those particular events. We have Kitchen Table Connects, which is a new initiative that we just started, where we will go to a host family and with 3 or more people, whether they have neighbors, siblings, we've had parents, grandparents, and we've had whole families that we were able to provide Kitchen Table Connects where we have that service go to you. We bring our experts to be able to help you with your claim, help you fill out your notice of loss since you're home. We'll sit there and scan in all your documents while we're at your home and be able to start uploading those documents into your file and be able to help provide that added assistance. So if anyone is interested in those Kitchen Table Connects, they can contact the helpline at 505-995-7133 and ask for an advocate's office, and we'll go ahead and take care of you and get a Kitchen Table Connect scheduled. And this is also for businesses, and we have several businesses lined up already who are really looking to, that have tenants or that have 3 or more businesses that they want to be able to get that assistance to be able to help them with the process. One of the new things that we also have is this spring break workshop series that we had this week. And we held the first one on Tuesday, which was March 12th from 11 to 1. But the team was so great and so excited with the amount of people that came through. We provided assistance till on to like 6:30. And we were able to accommodate and help answer questions, help people submit their notice of losses, and really be able to be a resource for the community. We focused our first day with having a presentation up and resources on small businesses. The next day, which was yesterday, March 13th, our focus was agricultural and farming. So we provided some additional resources there, and we helped several individuals submit notice of losses and help get, collect documents and upload them into their files and be able to be a resource for them. And today, we had over 47 participants that we were able to help, and you'll see all the commotion and me on the computer right now because I'm helping facilitate things. But we're getting people's questions answered, helping collect their documents and helping them move through the process. All of these efforts are really listening to the community and being able to provide assistance that is kind of unique and kind of innovative. So we're here to be able to provide that added assistance to that.
All right, next slide.
All right, so we can go ahead and flip to the next slide too. So one of the reasons the state is here tonight is we are here to explain that we're continuing to work with our federal partners to coordinate resources, because we all collectively know that even with funding on the ground from the claims office, which we are very supportive and excited about, there are other needs still at hand. Again, we have staff here to help address the challenges and any needs you may have in real time. And over the next few minutes, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the state information that we have. So I've got 3 things I'm going to hit tonight. The first one is going to be our disaster case managers who are here tonight. If I can have them raise their hands. I have a couple of them up here, yes. They're here to help you real time with your recovery, and we'll expand a little bit more about what disaster case managers can and can't do. We have resources here tonight to help find you contractors and to reduce the risk of utilizing contractors and kind of check some of those boxes to make you guys feel a little bit more comfortable about maximizing the dollars that you're getting. We also are going to have resources here tonight to help you with well water testing. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Ashley Salsi. She's going to expand a little bit more on disaster case management.
Thanks, Sally. So if we go to the next slide, I know we've talked about this in previous town halls. Our state disaster case management team is really to help you with whatever you need in your recovery. So, if you are navigating a number of different state and federal programs, if you have an attorney and you need some assistance while you wait for your claim to be processed, we can help you with whatever that need looks like. We're here to listen to you, to hear what you need, and to respond to what your needs are, and help you develop a recovery plan to meet those recovery goals. And we're currently coordinating across more than 30 programs to provide you with that support. So as you're navigating this process, please know that that's a resource. You do not have to commit to any program to be in case management, to talk to one of our case managers. And even if you just want to meet with us after the event tonight to talk a little bit about what you're experiencing, there's no commitment to the program. So we're happy to speak with you. We'll be here at the resource fair. And in the hallway after this, you can also call the central main line for the program, which is 505-670-4662. If we go to the next slide, so one piece that we're really focused on is coordinating resources to help you access contractors who can do the work when you receive funding at your property. Really, this is about networking, so it's all about connecting local contractors to local residents who need that work done and making sure that you have the knowledge of, preventing contractor fraud. I think a common concern across the board is with all of this funding flowing into the community, that there are predators, folks who are looking to take advantage of that. We want to make sure that folks are not subject to contractor fraud, and that when fraud does happen, we're able to track and nip it in the bud quickly. So a few tips and tricks. One is to hire a licensed contractor. The Regulations and Licensing Department does maintain a licensed contractor list. You can speak with one of our case managers and they can help you with that information, or you can verify that information yourself on the Regulations and Licensing Department website. As Ali mentioned, we have incredible partners, Martina Romero, the Chief Building Inspector, and Jesus Carrasco, who runs the Manufactured Housing Division, on the line this evening. So if you have questions, they are here to help answer those questions. A couple other tips. One is to get more than one estimate or quote when getting work done at your property, and to establish a contract with your contractor. Again, we hope that fraud doesn't happen, but if a contractor does something incorrectly at your property, having a contract is one of the best mechanisms to make sure that you can get recourse when that does happen. Again, if you hear or see any type of contractor fraud, there's a complaint line at the Regulations and Licensing Department to report that. And we're trying to make sure that the money stays in the hands of the folks who are entitled to have that income that support their recovery. If we go to the next slide,
We're really excited to start bringing together more events to support this type of networking and community. Again, we know the priority is giving local contractors business. So we are going to be hosting Contractor Connect. The first one will be the end of this month on Saturday, March 30th, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. here at New Mexico Highlands University. During that, you can learn about the rebuilding and repair process. You can connect with contractors and take the first steps to moving forward with that recovery process, because we know that getting a check doesn't mean that you're back at home. If we go to the next slide, again, if you yourself are a local contractor, we want to make sure that you are getting connected to this event, that you're getting connected to the local business that's available, and that ultimately we're making those connections. So, certainly if you're a contractor, if you know a contractor, feel free to take a picture of the QR code. We want to make sure that we're maximizing that and reaching as many folks as possible so that the money also saving the local economy. If we go to the next slide. Perfect. So that closes out my portion of the updates for this evening. Really excited to hand it over to one of our disaster case managers here to speak about some of the immediate support that we can provide as it relates to water well.
Thank you for having us. We actually wanted to make sure that everybody with a private well has clean water. So in collaboration with the Red River Water Treatment Facility, we've started providing well water testing kits. It is for E. coli and total coliform. It's the basic test. However, the kits are free and the test itself is only $25. This can also be covered by the claims office, correct, sir? And so there's a few little details that need to be managed. However, we have the kits here. You're more than welcome to come. They're in the atrium downstairs, and we can give you some direction on how to collect that water. It does need to be delivered to the facility the day it's collected, because it actually needs to incubate. Miguel down there will take really good care of you, and we're just happy to be here. Anything we can do, please let us know.
Yeah, next slide. Thanks, guys. One of the things I want to mention too, because I didn't actually say it in the very beginning, it would kind of sound like we were doing like a sales pitch. Disaster case management is completely free. We actually received a grant in order to fund the staff and to fund all of the hard work that they are doing. So if you have a question, or if you have, you're a little confused on how to fill out paperwork, the staff is definitely here to help you guys walk through technical assistance of filling out any kind of grant documentation or grant paperwork, or help you gather documentation in order to support your claim for the claims office. But I want you to completely understand and know that whether you take advantage of all 30 programs, you take advantage of no programs, and you just want to chat to somebody, it costs you absolutely nothing to walk up to one of them and just have a conversation with them and go from there. We just want to be able to support you any way that we can. Again, we're here to listen and to respond to your needs. So if there's an issue that's not being addressed, whether it's something that you're hearing on the claims office side, on disaster case management side, or even with some of our other partners that you see up here, or even on the screen, please let us know, whether it's myself or the claims office, or maybe one of our other federal or state partners. We want to be able to make sure that we're answering all of your questions for whatever need you may have. You can either do that during the Q&A session that we'll have coming up at the end, or you can meet us down in the atrium and we can chat in a little bit more private setting. The big thing, guys, is we want to be able to answer and get you all the answers that you may need. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to NFIP.
Hey everybody, my name is Adriel Taslim. I'm with the National Flood Insurance Program, or NFIP. Contrary to the slide up there, I am not Kevin Brown. My colleague, Kevin Brown, is downstairs working hand in hand with our other partners to answer your questions, move our claims through the process, and get money into the hands of New Mexicans that were affected by the disaster. So as many of you know, there is an increased risk for flood after fire. Due to the decrease in vegetation, if there is an increase in runoff and an increased risk for flash flooding and mudslide. Even those properties that were not previously at risk for flood have an increased risk for flood. So it is important for New Mexicans and all Americans to protect their homes and personal property with flood insurance before said event occurs. So FEMA recognizes that the increased flooding risk caused by the Hermit Peak and Calf Canyon fire is obviously an increased risk. And so the claims office is offering eligible claimants up to 5 years of NFIP coverage paid for by the claims office. There are a couple eligibility items that are important to keep in mind when you're trying to apply or claim this benefit through the claims office. You cannot have been required to carry flood insurance prior to the fire, and you must be in a participating NFIP community in San Miguel or Mora County. Other New Mexicans that are near the burn scar may be eligible for coverage, but they'll need to demonstrate a reasonable fear of heightened flooding or heightened risk of flooding. So those are typically determined on a case-by-case basis. So please reach out to your claims navigator to help discuss that if you haven't already. From there, the claims office staff and NFIP experts work hand in hand to complete the flood insurance assessments with the claimants, with these affected New Mexicans, to determine the insurance premiums and coverage based on the characteristics of the insured property. Once that assessment is complete and the premium is determined, the claimant will simply need to sign a release and certification form and return it to their claims navigator. From there, the claims office will pay for the premiums for up to 5 years. And I can get into that a little bit more later. It is important to note that there is a 30-day waiting period, which is standard for all NFIP coverages. So what that means is, say you receive your coverage and you sign it and turn it over and get it paid on May 1st. So that coverage will go into effect on June 1st. That is a very big one, I believe so. Beyond that, the NFIP premiums are eligible for partial payments before the rest of your claim. So as mentioned by my colleagues, Ali and Ben, these will not otherwise affect the rest of your claim or your final determination. They won't affect your final compensation. So one other thing to note is with these NFIP coverages that are covered by the claims office, you will still receive annual renewal notices, but you will not need to take action on those for, again, up to 5 years, since the claims office will be responsible for paying those premiums. Some questions have come up in the past about the types of coverages that we offer, and it's fairly straightforward. Obviously, we can't insure you for more than the value of your structure or your contents, but for homeowners, we offer a max coverage of $250,000 for the structure and $100,000 for the content. For renters, obviously you can't insure a structure that is not yours. However, you can still receive that $100,000 coverage for your contents. For non-residential structures, so typically commercial structures, you have up to $500,000 in structure coverage and $500,000 in content. Same rules apply for those non-residential renters. You can receive coverage for up to $500,000 in content. It's standard for us with the claims office process here that we have a $2,000 deductible for both the structure and a $2,000 deductible for the content. So after you have hit that $2,000 threshold for both the content and the structure, the NFIP coverage will cover you for the rest of it for any flood incident that comes up after it is in effect. So there are also some cases that we have seen where affected New Mexicans have flood insurance after the fire, and those folks may be eligible for reimbursement by the claims office. Additionally, on top of that, those that do receive reimbursement may be eligible for rolling over into the existing NFIP program for the additional years of coverage up to 5 years through the claims office. So from there, I think it's important to note a couple of the upcoming deadlines. So the claims office encourages people impacted by the fire to submit their claims by April 1st. It is very important that you get that deadline because claims after April 1st will not be processed. This deadline is to ensure that the claims office has time to meet statutory deadlines set out in the law and that claims are insured by the time spring flooding or the hazards of spring flooding come. So if you're interested in learning more about NFIP coverage through the claims office, please call the helpline on 505-395-7133. And I'm sure it will also show up at the end here. So yes, but please reach out and request this benefit. It's important to note that this 5-year program is a special partnership between the Hermit Claims Office and the NFIP. This is not available through the normal NFIP purchasing avenues. So please make sure to reach out to the claims office. It's kind of hit or miss whether folks at the national level NFIP office will be aware of this. So please, again, your claims office is your best resource for anything related to claims. And with that, I believe next up we have my colleague, Lou.
So I guess introduce myself. I'm Lynn Macias with the New Mexico Office of Superintendent of Insurance. We are available if you are having any type of issues with your insurance company regarding claims coverage, anything to do with insurance. We are looking into everything as far as your risk and your homeowner's insurance. I know it's getting harder to obtain, but we do have a state New Mexico program that you can qualify for. If you have any questions in regards to that, please give us a call, and I'm always available. Please.
Thank you, everyone, for that great information. And I did want to note that I failed to introduce Amina Sennett and Kenneth Alcombe with the Forest Service. They're here to answer any of your questions concerning forest restoration. Please call on them if you have any questions pertaining to that issue. And that said, we're ready for the Q&A portion. We have several questions in the chat. Any in the room?
I have. So while they're getting signed up, let's take some from the chat.
I'm already on there.
Okay, we have quite a few here. Here's one. New Mexico Attorney General Raul Torres issued an opinion finding damages are available to compensate nuisance and trespass plaintiffs for annoyance, discomfort, and inconvenience.
We can barely hear you. Can we turn the mic up or?
I think they might have just died.
I think
Then
so.
the Zoom outfit will have a hard time hearing anything. So
Yeah, that one.
You're on.
Nothing? All right. Hello. Testing. We're good for that bit.
Try it for a second.
Maybe we can hit the batteries. Can you hear me? Yeah. Hello. Testing. Going in and out, I think. Okay, let's take those. Okay, let's try this. New Mexico. I'm just gonna yell. New Mexico Attorney General Raul Torres issued an opinion finding damages are available to compensate nuisance and trespass plaintiffs for annoyance, discomfort, and inconvenience. Will that change the opinion of FEMA that claimants are not able to be compensated for these damages?
Just, should I just put on the video?
Yeah, I'm gonna unmute this one to that one.
Got that, folks.
Okay. So it's Ben Krakauer from the Claims Office. Thanks for the question.
Hold on, let's get that. I don't know how to do it.
Hang on one second while we adjust the audio. I'll stand over here. Right. Thanks for the question. We are aware of the Attorney General's opinion. Our counsel's office is reviewing it. At the moment, there is no change in policy. Thanks.
Yeah, it's reverb, it's there's a microphone picking up the picture.
Can you hear me?
Issued an opinion. Finding damages are available to Sorry, guys. Okay. Testing. Hello? Is that working? Okay. I can't see the question. Sorry. Okay. New Mexico Attorney General Raul Torres issued an opinion finding, quote, damages are available to compensate nuisance and trespass plaintiffs for annoyance, discomfort, and inconvenience. Will that change the opinion of FEMA? The claimants are not able to be compensated for these damages. Yeah, if you don't mind.
So I'll repeat the answer again for those online. We are aware of the opinion. Our attorneys are reviewing it. There's no change in policy.
All right. Next question. How is the claims office prioritizing those in the fire footprint, especially those who lost homes?
So for individuals who had a total loss of their home or their primary residence, that they are being prioritized. We are looking at the data every day and moving those as quickly as we can.
Next question. What is the turnaround time to get a call back from the helpline and the advocate?
So I'll speak to the helpline. The helpline is stand over here. Okay. So the helpline is staffed Monday to Thursday, and in most of the time there is no wait. So people pick up the phone. If you've left a message and they have not called you back, please, enter your information in the chat and we'll make sure someone calls you tomorrow. But we really have increased our staffing. So whether you're calling us, whether you're emailing us, whether you're coming into our office, we should be able to get to you within 24 hours. Paula, do you want to talk about the advocate? You have to talk on the computer.
You have to come all the way over here. Sorry, guys.
We usually respond back within, was it 72 hours? But right now we're going through a transition and changing the number. So all calls are going through so that we can expedite that even further.
And the new number is the helpline?
Yes, the new number is the helpline 505-995-5555. 7133.
Okay, next question. It has been difficult for some to get fire insurance since the fires. Will there be a program similar to the flood insurance for fire?
Yeah, it's a really, really great question. I think, this is unfortunately, did everyone hear the question in the room? Okay, it's a great question. Unfortunately, this is not a challenge that is unique to New Mexico. We're seeing this in California, we're seeing this in Colorado, we're seeing this in other parts of the West. And it's not really just with fire insurance, it's also with all types of all peril insurance. Right now, FEMA is proud to run the National Flood Insurance Program. That is the only peril that we insure for. But we do have the state insurance commissioner, his office in the room. You have to come to the computer.
Yes. So we do have a New Mexico state-run program that is the New Mexico Fair Plan that anybody can qualify for. And it's usually the last resort if you do not find anything on the open market. And if you have any questions or you need assistance finding coverage, do not hesitate to call us because that's what we're here to help you through these things and find coverage for you.
Thank you. We're going to take a couple questions here in the room. Oh, Dawn? Yeah. Yes. And we will be providing email addresses and phone numbers for all of these programs at the end of our program. So Tina Marquez. Ma'am? I'm sorry. We don't have batteries.
So my question was partially answered, but my question was, after looking over the act and speaking with the folks here today, I was curious is why FEMA is treating this disaster as a natural disaster rather than negligence, and not handling our cases as a negligence rather than as a disaster. I don't see that the people of this disaster are being treated fairly because of the circumstances and what we're being offered.
So like I said, we definitely have not lived up to the commitment that we've made in terms of how fast we're compensating people. But I do want to say that, when the fire first happened and the president declared a major disaster under the Stafford Act, a separate body of law, there was compensation offered to people. There was assistance offered through the Stafford Act. That assistance is very, very minimal, right?
Folks that lost homes.
I know, it's very, very minimal. I think in 2022, the maximum payout for someone who lost a home was $37,900 approximately. But because the federal government has accepted responsibility for this tragic fire, that's why they appropriated, why Congress gave us the $3.95 billion, really gave all of you the $3.95 billion, and why we're able to compensate much higher rates than under the traditional FEMA program. So
it's higher rates, but it still falls under the act that states you cannot be compensated above and beyond physical losses.
So the act allows us to pay for economic damages.
Right.
So property loss, business loss.
So that's not really accepting 100% responsibility. I mean, for all of us.
We're maximizing the compensation under the law as it's written.
So is the law being looked at to be revised? Kind of similar to the question asked right before me by Raul.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, Congress passes the law, and then our job in the executive branch at FEMA is to implement it. So I would encourage you to speak with your congressional delegation, your senators, and your
I have, and they're not listening. I can't even get a call back.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Randy Houston. You're welcome to sit.
All right. I can stand for a little bit if you can.
Hey, sir, how are you?
Good, thank you. So my question is, you've talked about contractors and the contractor list and the state helping out with people to be able to make sure you're hiring good contractors. Some of the folks in the room here will remember that prior to the fire, to have a home built in rural Vegas, in the rural Mora Vegas area, the wait time was long then. My wife and I, we were in our house a month before we got evacuated, but we waited about 3 years for a contractor to build our home. So you have a contractor list. How many people, first question, how many people are on that contractor list that are local? And then when we figure out that we only have enough contractors, with the contractors we have, it's going to take 10 or 15 or 20 years to build back all of these homes. It's going to cost a lot more to get contractors to come in from other areas. What's FEMA thinking about doing in regard to that, and how much more it's going to cost per square foot to build homes because we have a lack of contractors?
So this is Ally Rye with the state. So for the first one, I don't have a true number. I do know right now we are working with about 16 pages. Just kidding. I just got told 600 contractors are on the verified list.
Albuquerque and North did 600 contractors.
Thank you. Are on the verified list of folks who are registered in the state of New Mexico to work in the state of New Mexico, to be able to support. The whole reason behind this contractor fair is so that way we can start partnering folks with you guys to get that work moving a little bit quicker. One of our hopes that we are still working on, especially with RLD, is to be able to show that there is a need and to see if there's any way, kind of very similar to how the lawyers, started setting up shop in these communities because they saw the need. Now we can start moving some of our contractors into these communities to where they're just turning one job over after another instead of having to realize that they need to go back to Albuquerque and then back up to Mora and San Miguel, back to Albuquerque, and so on and so forth. The next one, I do apologize, sir. What was the second question behind that one for me before we turn it over to FEMA for the FEMA question?
That was basically it. That was close enough.
Okay.
It's just how many are, and even the 600 contractors, are those all contractors that can build a home, or are those just that are registered with the state to be able to do remodels?
So they're all varied. I will tell you the intention behind the contracting fair is that you come in. So, and I'm giving an example. So this is just all hypothetical. You come in and you say, listen, I have a home, but for some reason, my pipes to my septic system are the things that actually burnt. We go through the list and identify the key folks who work on septic systems and give you that section of the list. So that way you're not having to flip through 16 pages. Our hope is that at least quite a few of those folks who can do that contractor are on the list. And we can tell you these folks are at table 5, 6, and 7. So you can go and kind of interact, see who you like, get a couple of business cards, get a couple of quotes. We're trying to narrow down that time that you're spending on the phone or that you're trying to just dig through quite a few lists to find these resources is our intent behind the contractor fair.
So the contractor list does have like electrical, plumbing.
Yes, sir.
So there are not 600 folks that can build homes.
Correct, but we can get you a better idea of how many are broken out between like general contractor, electrician, and plumbing, and so on and so forth. But our intention is to provide a holistic approach and not just one that can only do a certain narrow scope.
Thanks, sir. So your question is a valid one. I know that we spoke, on the phone a few weeks ago. It's something that we are looking at. We are doing valuations using exact estimates. We're looking at, what is in the market right now. We're forecasting what's going to happen in terms of, and we know that there's vendor availability, we know there's inflationary pressures. We are also doing a property diminution study. So that is almost done. It's been very hard for us to get our hands on the data that we need to calculate what the loss of value is. We are very, very close to getting all the data that we need, and our team is working every day to complete that study. And that's another way that we're going to be able to compensate individuals. So I can't give you a dollar per square foot. But what I would say is you should come in with your paperwork, with your documentation. Let us look at what we can do. right, sir? Thanks.
Thank you. Toby Dolan?
My name's Toby Dolan. Just for context purposes, my family lost 3 residences, my grandmother, my mother, and myself. I respectfully dispute your statement that there's been any priority given to those types of cases, and I've got the evidence to prove that that's the case. I had the opportunity to travel last week to DC to advocate for fire victims, had the opportunity to meet with the entire New Mexico congressional delegation, as well as the administrator for FEMA, Ms. Criswell. She did state that she has a lot of faith in you, Mr. Krakauer, is that how you say it?
Yes, sir.
She has a lot of faith in you, so I'm watching to see. But I tell you what, I'm still disappointed in the process. I will say that there has been a little bit of movement in the past 2 weeks. While I was in DC, I did get 2 letters of determinations on our cases out of the 3, 2 of which were labeled final determinations. And I was appalled at the price that the offers that were made in those. Appalled. You took away our entire lives, affected 3 of my family members, and I was appalled at that. And so I would sure love to see some more in-depth, comprehensive looking at what we lost when you finalize these determinations. So my question is, why is anything, when we have substantial losses like us, why is anything labeled final? Jim told us in the last town hall meeting that the recovery could last 30 years. I do not believe anything should come final. Anything should be partial when we have substantial losses like we have in county. That's my question to you.
And testing, nothing. This is a battery.
I think there were dead batteries that I found, to be honest.
No, that's right.
Mr. Dolan, thank you very much. I know the administrator enjoyed meeting with you, so I appreciate you the trip out to DC to meet with her. My heart goes out to you and your family. I know that I'm not going to go into the specifics of your case in this forum. I'm happy to speak with you afterwards. And again, like, you know, as I said during my presentation, you're not required to sign a final letter of determination if you don't want to, if you disagree with all or part of it. That's why we have an appeals process. For the parts where you do agree, we can make a partial payment. We know that there are some individuals who won't sign a final, but as part of our process, whether it's partial or final, the severable loss portion, in order for us to compensate you under the act and under our policies, we do need that release and certification form signed. But you're absolutely right. There's nothing that the claims office can do to make this community whole again. I wish we could. It was a tragedy. It was absolutely awful. There's nothing I can do to make you or your family whole again. What I can do is maximize your compensation to the extent possible.
I appreciate that. Yeah, my follow-up to that is that final letter has legal consequences. And unfortunately, if you sign that, it potentially could be final. You said that we could come back to you for additional losses, but that's just saying something. There's nothing in the rules and regulations that guarantee that.
So the rules and regulations, do you want to make your questions?
Yeah.
So the rules and regulations allow us to reopen claims even after a final for good cause. Our intent, the intent that Congress has given us in the law, is to continue to compensate people for losses for the act. So all I can say to you is what our intent is, and good cause in the situation that this community is going through, that you are all going through, is easy to find.
Sir, there can't be any finality to it because you don't have even the information you were just talking about on the information about it. So there's nothing final about any part of it. Well, so you can't do that. You didn't address many of the things that we framed in our claim form weren't even addressed in the final determination. So, I mean, those are old news. I think the other thing that's important to say and educate the people about is that the statute of limitations to file a federal court claim is 2 years. That from the date your property was affected, so if you don't have finality, you need to be looking at filing your SF-95 form to protect the rights.
Sure. I appreciate the comments. I'm not an attorney. I'm not going to pretend to be one up here. I will say that the Affirmative Speak Act also offers another legal remedy. So appeals, arbitration. So it doesn't stop with just the appeals process. There's also arbitration, which is another remedy that you have under the act. But thanks, and I'm happy to talk to you afterwards about your case one-on-one.
Deanna?
Good evening, everyone. My question is about flood insurance. I don't know if it's a question, it's actually, I know we've worked with the state to get deadlines extended or programs extended for folks. I met with 5 people today who are not ready to file their well, have not been able to get into an office to seek flood insurance. So is there a possibility of getting that deadline extended?
Thanks very much. So that deadline's in the law of May. We have to have the policy in place by May 31st, and we need time to process them, which is why we set the deadline of April 1st. We will leave to Congress their ability to extend, deadlines by passing additional measures under the law. But if there's people that we can help, whether it's sending a navigator or an advocate out to where they are, and helping them, fill out the form and then processing it for them, we're happy to do.
Sure. We've also been hearing a lot from the Department of Human Services. Folks are wanting to do a notice of loss, but there's a lot of elderly people who fall under the disabled and elderly Medicaid. And if they are getting compensation from Hermit County, they're worried that they're going to lose those benefits, even food stamps, Medicaid, anything like that. So Allie, I guess this is more directed to you. If you might want to coordinate a meeting with the deputy of the Income Support Division, so they can get clarity and get answers to their workers.
Jan, I really do appreciate that. So we will definitely set up that meeting. So I should write that down. And then that way we can start working on messaging too for these folks, because I don't want them to feel like they can't get compensation and feel like they're going to be put into a certain situation where they're hit or wrong. Thank you.
And I'll just add, the act is very clear that compensation for the act does not have any impact on entitlement programs. So
it's very clear, but the department head has not disseminated that information to the income support workers. And they have a, I don't want to call it a few or what, but from Farmington or Ruidoso may get a local Las Vegas case to process. So we really need to get that word out so these folks are worried and scared that if they get these compensations, they're going to lose their money. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to take some questions from the chat.
Wait, I'm going to go more.
In your policy, it states that claims over $1 million have to be approved by the director. If so, is there someone that is actively looking at these claims while a director is being appointed to keep these claims moving?
That's an excellent question. So whenever the federal government sets up a program, there's authority that is invested in a position, and then that position has the ability to delegate that. So because the director position is vacant right now, it is not preventing us from processing any claims. All claims are being processed as they reach the authorized official. Please.
Then I'm going to kind of throw a little bit of the bus here, but I do want everyone to know Ben has set up a process so where he looks at every single LOD before it goes out to make sure that it meets all of the requirements. So it's not one of those things where it goes to your navigator, goes to your claims reviewer, and then gets pushed out without final approval or review. Ben personally stays in the office until 10 or 11 at night looking at every single LOD before it hits the streets.
A second question, here, how are you handling claims that have passed their 180-day deadline? In my opinion, it would make sense that these claims be prioritized prior to newer claims.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. So one of the, as I mentioned, we have lots of data that we're looking at. One of those pieces of data is the age of the claims. So it's something we're focusing on every day. We are clearing that, we're clearing the backlog of age claims on a daily basis. It is not happening fast enough, but we're looking at every claim over 180 days to get the process as quickly as we can.
I am a social worker who works with many elderly and disabled individuals living in government housing. For clarification, what do they need to bring in to get reimbursed for soot and ash damages for personal items in their homes?
So they need to bring in a form of ID so that we can say who they are. They need to bring in a lease or document from the housing authority that says that they live there, and they'll need to complete our smoke and ash form. That's it.
Next question, the water in Las Vegas is making people sick when they drink it. Myself and others are having to buy water bottles to cook, drink, and use as needed. Are you compensating for this?
So we know that there are people who have wells that are, when they've gone through the testing, they're finding contamination. In that case, we can turn them in the short term for things like bottled water. In the longer term, if there's remediation that needs to be conducted for their house, whether it's a filtration system, reverse osmosis, those things would also be compensable under the Act. I'll also note that for those, and I know many of you have read the law, there was a special appropriation that Congress put in for water treatment plants, and that's something that our team is actively working on with the water treatment plants in the area to make the most use of that special appropriation so that they can do construction or remediation.
It's going to move this over here.
It's really long, so that's why.
Oh, okay. How can you justify processing claims so quickly for homeowners outside the fire's footprint for simple smoke damage when you are so far behind in processing and paying out claims within the fire's footprint? In many cases, people who lost homes or their homes are severely damaged beyond smoke damage.
Well, thank you very much for the question. It's a perfectly fair question. As I said, we have increased our staffing across the agency, across the claims office. So we're doing both at the same time. The claims for smoke only, for evacuation costs, because of things like our standard rate calculator, because of the limited documentation that we need, we're able to move those cases through more quickly. And we know that that money is compensation that people can use for the needs that they have today. So I appreciate the question, but we're striving to do both at the same time.
It sure seems that you are acing with prejudice or discrimination against those who have legal representation and those who have bigger or more complex claims. These people need your help the most. Comment on that?
I appreciate the question. The claims process is designed to treat everybody equally, whether or not you are represented by an attorney's office. As I stand here today, there's about $27 million available with clients of attorneys' offices where if they would accept a partial or final offer, that compensation would be moved. That's $27 million out of the $45 million that was available on the street as of 4 o'clock this morning when we got our last data. So we are moving all these claims forward.
What can be done to help FEMA recognize that the program, as it is currently being administered, isn't helping the people who need the help the most? What needs to happen to help you FEMA realize you are not helping many, many people who need your help? You are failing too many people who live in the fire footprint. People with real recognizable fire and flood damage. What can we do to help you hear us?
Thanks very much for the question. As I said, we are committed to helping everyone who's impacted by the fire, particularly those who had total losses and are in the immediate fire footprint. If there, we have increased staffing, we have our office hours have expanded. We are doing workshops like the one that's happened here at New Mexico Highland University over the last 3 days. But we are open to other suggestions. If there are avenues that we have not pursued, you can put those in the chat. You can send us an email. I'm happy to speak with you on the phone. But whatever it takes, we're committed to doing it. Thanks.
Thank you. We have one more question in the chat here. Why is Ben saying we can't make you whole? Isn't that the goal of the bill and this process?
Thanks for the question. The tragic fire wiped away a lot of history. It wiped away a lot of people's belongings. It wiped away a lot of people's those non-tangible things are not things that we can compensate under the act. I wish we could. I wish we could reset the clock for the day before the fire. It's just not something that we're empowered to do. What we're empowered to do is compensate to the maximum extent that is permitted under the law. So that's what I mean by that. There's a lot of intangibles that we're going to be able to return to the community. I want to be very honest about that. Eva wants to be very honest about that. It's a compensation program. I think the money is helpful, but the money is not it. And that's my.
Do we have any more questions in the room?
Yes. Where's the one I just added? We have somebody who wants to verbally ask their question from the chat.
Okay. So we're going to unmute Lucy Frost.
Give me just a second here. Just saw her. We're going to use it from here.
Okay. Hi,
Lucy, go ahead.
Thank you. Hi. We're watching here from Texas because we don't have a place to live.
Sorry. Start over, please.
Yes, ma'am. I said we're watching here from Texas because we don't have a place to live in Mora anymore. My question is really, well, first of all, I'm wondering about if anybody in the FEMA group that's administering this fund has ever looked into how other funds, similar funds, have been administered. The 9/11 fund, for example. Are you familiar with Kenneth Feinberg? Anybody there?
Did you hear the question in the room? So the question from Ms. Frost, she noted that she's a resident of Moore but currently living in Texas. Has FEMA looked at other models, for how to run a fund like this? And she referenced the World Trade Center Fund as one example. So the truth is we have, and every fund is different. There have been people who compared this to PG&E out in California, which was the result of the lawsuit. The World Trade Center Fund, something I'm pretty familiar with. I spent a good portion of my career in New York City. That was a result of the terrorist attack. A number of lawsuits and also a captive that was established by the federal government. So there are unique elements to all of these different types of compensation funds. This one that we have to follow, it was established in Congress under the Hermit Act, and that's what we're following it. So we are always looking for best practices. We've looked at all of those. Some of the elements of those different funds have been incorporated into our program, but you have to recognize the unique elements of each one. But I do appreciate the questions from us.
So that is the end of the questions in the chat. If
It's
there's
not.
Nothing else in the room. Oh, do you have another question? in the
You
chat?
got one over there too. Do we have any more on the list that people signed?
Jana has another question.
My heart goes out to those of you who've lost everything, and it's just been a painstaking slow process to feel heard and wanted. But I do have a story, the spring event, what are we calling it? Spring break event. My dad suffers from COPD, severe COPD, and he did have to leave town for a couple of months. They didn't lose their home, but they did get severe smoke damage. And I just want to compliment the team today for walking them through the process and getting their NOL all the way to completion to where they will get their compensation in a couple of weeks. So good job on that. But I am hoping that moving forward, we can compensate others who have lost everything.
Thank you, Jen.
Back here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Again, I'll make it quick, I promise. Randy Houston again. My question is, so you've got the appeal process in place now, and then after that, arbitration or mediation. Who handles that, and is it through FEMA? If it's through FEMA, why should we expect a different outcome if we take it to those steps?
Sir, thanks very much. It's a perfectly wonderful question. So the appeals process is through FEMA. It's something that we are familiar with. So outside of the Hermit Speak office, we have other programs that have both a first appeal level and a second appeal level. So at the appeal level in this office, it won't be handled directly by Hermit Speak. It will be handled by our audits, appeals, and arbitration branch at headquarters. So it's a different group of people that are going to be reviewing the claim. But you're absolutely right; they are still FEMA staff. Arbitration, we would bring in outside arbiters.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes.
Okay.
And I believe we had another question. And we're back in the back row. Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Any other thoughts, questions? Okay. We have another question in the chat. Are you doing any water testing of streams to test water for livestock?
So right now we are working with our environment department to create a watershed study. This one would include testing water from across all of our burn scar areas, from water streams that you're talking about right there to municipalities to individual well testing. It's a little bit of a heavy lift, so we're working through quite a few of those parameters and setting up MOUs and getting the fund established to be able to take care of that. It is coming. I will tell you it's probably not coming as quick as what we would like, but there's a couple of hurdles that we've had to jump over. So we look forward to being able to update you guys on the next town hall on where we are with that. Ashley, is there anything you want to add to that? Okay, no, just kidding.
Allie, wouldn't the USGS or, the EPA be better equipped than the state in doing a water study? There are a lot of chemicals that are showing up that you guys are talking about, in our watershed.
Nope,
And in the water table.
So for those,
Not just individual well.
so for those of you who couldn't hear the question, he asked if the, USGS or EPA would be better suited for this. I will tell you that is probably one of the larger reasons that it's taken a little bit longer, is we've been having conversations with those federal partners, and they are limited in their capacity to be able to do what is being requested, which is why it is kind of fallen back to the state for the state to step in.
This is an environmental disaster.
Yes, sir.
An ecological disaster.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The bulk of damage mostly due to the weapon. I'm not sorry. That's the bottom line. What are you guys doing?
The one thing I will tell you, and it doesn't fully answer your question, sir, but USGS is currently monitoring water gauges. That's the one place that they have stepped up. I know. I will tell you from the state's perspective, we finally got to the point where we wanted to step in and be the ones that were kind of controlling the report, not the reports, excuse me, let me rephrase that. We were the ones that were controlling the request to make sure that it meets all of your needs, because we don't want them to just come out and test for one thing. We want them to test for the full gamut of everything that's going on in your water, so that we are fully understanding, so that way you can take that water well report, whether it's a well report or it's the the soil and groundwater report and send it back to FEMA so that we, FEMA can be able to compensate you with something to be able to, make the water drinkable. Anything else? No, okay.
Okay. So that wraps up our program. I just want to remind you, if you have any questions, we have Adriel with NFIP, Kenneth and Amina with the Forest Service, Ali, of course, Ben, Jennifer, and Paula. They're here to answer any questions after the program. Also, our navigators, advocates, disaster case managers are in the building. Please reach out to them. And with that, thank you so much for spending your evening with us. Take care. Oh, and there is our documents downstairs. Take with you if you need.